Hi. So yesterday I was painting a female body and a cat on that canvas you can see behind me, and I realized that I was not very good at drawing the proportions of the woman, so I decided to check Tumblr, the best place to find naked pictures of women, so that I can actually copy that on my canvas. So what happened was while I was going through these images of naked women on Tumblr, a couple of questions about sexual objectification came to my mind. So as I was going through these images I found on Tumblr, I thought to myself, do nudity or any means of sexual expression equate sexual objectification? Or does being sexy or even trying to look sexy, which can be, by the way, considered one of the most natural impulses, revolution-wise, inevitably equate sexual objectification? And if so, does sexual empowerment, or as known as sexual liberation of women, even exist? Well, good news is that the answer to that is yes. But the bad news is that this whole process, this whole act of trying to distinguish sexual objectification from sexual liberation can be tricky and is probably not as easy as we'd like it to be. So there are two contexts in which I'm going to at least try to provide you with some guidelines to detect or discern a sexually objectified female body and distinguish it from the good old sexual empowerment. First of the two is, you guessed it, the media and advertisement industry. Now, I know that regarding the media and advertisement industry, there are unimaginable mediums or ways in which they can potentially sexualize, objectify a female's body. But for this video's sake, I'm going to mainly tackle visuals, because if we don't, this video is going to get a lot long. Now, when we look at these images that present female bodies in some sort of sexual context and aim to complement or increase the sales of a product, I think, unlike other cases in which we're obliged to analyze the initial motivations or intentions or just the overall autonomy of the woman, we can jump right into the finalized image and the finalized product and the messages that can be interpreted from it. In short, what I'm trying to say is that when you view an advertisement that centers around sexuality, unless it's about birth control or condoms or something, I think it is safe to assume that women in those images are not sexually representing themselves or sexually being expressive, but rather serving for a bigger purpose, and that is to make the product sell more. However, I know that kind of sounds too ambiguous to be a guideline. I'm going to give you an actual test, which was put forward by Dr. Caroline Hellman in her TED Talk called The Sexy Lie in 2013, which included some basic test questions, actually 6 questions, and aimed to help people detect whether or not an image consists a sexually objectified woman. The test includes questions such as, does the image show a sexualized person as interchangeable, or does the image affirm the idea of violating the bodily integrity of a sexualized person and that person can't consent, or does the image suggest that the sexual availability of that person is the defining characteristic of that person, and so forth. If you'd like to see the full test, I'm going to put the TED Talk and the test in the description box so that you can check it later. Now, moving on to things that have somewhat vague or unknown purposes, such as the critical show the female star put on. Was she self-objectifying herself to sell more music, or was she simply being sexually expressive in an artistic way? Or those pictures you find on Tumblr, or the real woman that you know in your real life that you assume to be a little bit promiscuous. Is she using her sexuality to get things done, or is that simply the way she expresses her sexuality? I'd say in cases like this, our main focus should be the motivations or initial intentions of the woman, or the autonomy of the woman. We have to ask ourselves, does this woman know and accept the consequences of her actions? Is she fully in charge? Does she take full responsibility in a consensual way? Does she have autonomy? Because the thing with sexual objectification is that it makes it seem as though a woman's body is something that exists independent of the woman, thus giving third subject the permission to act upon it without needing the consent from the woman. Sexual objectification extracts control and autonomy and power from the woman and gives it to another subject, grammar pun possibly intended, thus justifying the exploitation of the female body without seemingly violating her basic human rights. In short, the best way to distinguish sexual objectification from sexual empowerment is to examine this pull, power, and control situation. When the woman is the one that takes actions autonomously, we say that it is sexual empowerment. But when the woman is the one that is being acted upon by another subject, we say it's sexual objectification.